You know it's not so easy being the child of two bohemians. You never know what to expect, where the world will take you next, but you know it's the way, it's the way, it's the only way. Well, if you're like me, then you know you can't live your life in jail. Or left alone behind a desk, just looking like all the rest, counting numbers, just numbers to nowhere. Because if a guy gives you something, don't you keep it to yourself. And if a guy gives you loving, share the love with someone else. 'Cause I get by, I get by. Yes, I get by, I get by. I used to ask myself, do you want to be rich or poor? Well, I guess I'm on my way to about $10 a day, but I know I'll be okay, I'll be okay. 'Cause if God gives you something, don't you keep it to yourself. And if God gives you loving, share the love with someone else. 'Cause I get by, I get by. Yes, I get by, I get by. Yes, I get by, I get by. Yes, I get by, I get by. Thank you.
Thank you. That was the Balin Brothers. I think you guys are in for a treat because they're going to come back again a little bit later in the program. So again, thank you very much, guys. So a little housekeeping I want for all of you guys. I know that we can't really live without our cell phones, but for the next hour, if you guys could please do us the favor of turning your phones off, ringers, pagers. Lauren wants me to let all of you guys know that she understands that the Niners are playing tonight. But if you guys leave the phones off during the 7th inning stretch, she's going to give you a score update. Okay, so everybody's real good there. All right, this is good. So again, thank you for being here with us. My name is Ken Tam. I get the pleasure of welcoming all of you to the 7th annual In Harmony with Hope Awards. We have some outstanding honorees this evening. And actually, if you guys notice, I've actually worn my nautical tie. And a little bit of that is just the comeback against all odds with America's Cup. And it's a lot about what these three honorees do. I mean, they have a lot of odds stacked against them, and yet they overcome and they persevere. They've done some outstanding things in the organizations that these three have founded. I think you're going to find remarkable this evening. In addition to that, we're going to hear from David Romer. I asked him how he wanted to be introduced tonight, and he just said, just say something awesome. And I think if you guys heard what these guys just did, you know, that's one of the things that they do. So in addition to the Campus Movie Fest and then the music counterpart, we're going to hear a little bit from David about his organization. In addition to that, we have the pleasure of having Lauren give us an update on the Elfenworks Foundation. And then Our very special guest, we have Wendy Takuda, a local personality here who will serve as our MC. Like Wendy and all of us, we've seen how much media and how we consume news over the last 10, 15 years. And what we've done is decorated the hall when you guys first came in with newsprint and newspaper motif. And I think that says a lot about how things have changed. You know, people used to read their news from newspapers, and now you get it from your smartphone. And I think the changes that we've seen are indicative of how things are just happening much faster. So whether you read your news from a newspaper or you read about it from your smartphone, you know, the Elfenworks, we're here, we've got you covered in any type of media. In addition to the new honorees, you'll learn a little bit about our alumni, and we have a digital web loop there in the back, so please go take a look at those. So let's get started. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce Brad Lambert, who is our partner with Wells Fargo Bank. They've been with us for the last few years. They donate generously to this evening, and we'd love to have you come up and say a few words.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Good evening, everyone. I guess I'm the second guy who gets to welcome you tonight. So I just wanted to say that at Wells Fargo, we're very committed to giving back to the communities that we live and work in. Last year, we were actually the #1 corporate donor, giving over $315 million back to the communities. So that's my official statement. Thank you. On a personal note, though, I have to tell you that I had the honor and privilege of spending a couple hours last night with some of the supporters and members of Elfenworks and past and current honorees. And I have to tell you, I was just absolutely blown away by their spirit, by their tenacity, their focus. It was really overwhelming. It was humbling and inspiring, and I hope it's infectious too. So I know you're going to enjoy your evening. Thank you very much for having us here.
The effect that your film might have if it got seen on Virgin America by some sort of a change agent. And I was going to tell you how it might give hope to somebody who saw your movie and felt like you felt some compassion. We love Campus Movie Fest, we love this partnership, and we're astounded at the way it's been growing. I was talking to one of the filmmakers earlier, and he said that somebody just today had posted that very thing. They felt like their story had been told and they hadn't really heard, and that's part of the power that you guys have. You're making a real ripple. You know the world's in really good hands with you, and we need you, and we need more submissions. Keep them coming, okay?
Thank you. So as Ken said, I'm the awesome co-founder of Campus Movie Fest, the world's largest student film festival. And what you just saw there were some highlights from our grand finale in Hollywood this past June, where we showed our social justice winners. That was our 13th year of celebrating what happens when we provide students with laptops, cameras, training, everything they need to make short movies in a week, all for free. And it's been an incredible adventure. Backtracking before we started that, I actually won my high school's math award, which was a major turnoff for the girl I had a crush on. So I don't like to claim to be a numbers guy, but I wanted to talk about a couple numbers here tonight. The first is 0. Maybe it was 1 or 2 or 3, and as I said, I'm not a numbers guy, but that was how many social justice films and songs we got in the first 6 years of Campus Movie Fest. We got a ton of comedies, a ton of dramas, but no social justice entries. The next number I want to talk about is 1,000. That's the number we're approaching of songs and movies that we've gotten in the past 6 years of Campus Movie Fest. Yeah. Thank you. And there have been exceptional stories of what's happening in their community, solutions for building a more hopeful tomorrow. So the question is, what happened in between there? And in one word, it's Lauren. And in a few more words, it's the Elfenworks Foundation, Ken and Marion, all the team here, all their resources, all their expertise, all their inspiration enabled us to provide both the educational opportunities and the incentives for our students to make short films and songs all about social justice. So it's been an incredible adventure. The third number is millions. That's how many times these movies and songs have been heard online, in Virgin America, at Cannes, Hollywood, everything you can imagine, and been able to make a big difference. So we can't thank Lauren enough and all of the Elfenworks Foundation for that opportunity. This partnership has also spawned new partnerships, including with one of our recent winning bands, A Moment's Worth, and we just wanted to share a video message from them now too.
Hey guys, it's going on, A Moment's Worth here, and we wanted to share some amazing news with you guys. We just formed a partnership with the team at Elfenworks. Elfenworks is an amazing group of people who have helped us out so much throughout our career as a band. Most recently, when our trailer was stolen, they actually came to our rescue and helped us buy a new trailer that's helping us get to our shows now. Their message is very simple and very powerful, and it's that your ability to make a difference and create a ripple effect is infinite. There's an infinite number of things that you can do to help this world and help make it a better place. So to learn more about that and our partnership with them, just go to elfenworks.org/amomentsworth. The link is right below the video. Come check it out at our shows too. We'll be talking about them, and we're so excited to officially join hands with them. So thank you guys, and thank you Elfenworks.
So rather than talk about any more numbers, given my history there, I'd much rather reintroduce the Valen Brothers. This is one of the top indie bands. They won our Social Justice Elfenworks Award this year for Lady Liberty. So we've got David and Daniel, Pierre, who you heard before. Let's welcome back to the stage. Congratulations, guys.
Hold the weight of the world in need. But how strong can an iron back be? 'Cause I don't know if I could say it so easily. If I heard the cry of just one child longing to be free. Oh, Lady Liberty, does your hand grow weak, holding your torch high? And every now and then, does your heart grow sore, looking over from the sky? For every father who sees her standing in the bay, to every mother whose will won't wash away. Oh, she's the light, she's the flame they follow. So let's live for the dream of what she might bring tomorrow. Lady Liberty, does your hand grow weak, holding your torch high? And every now and then, does your heart grow sore, looking over from the sky? Oh, do we have love to keep her dream alive? Or do we have love to keep her dream alive? Or do we have love? Do we have a love to keep Do we have love to keep her dream alive? Or do we have love? Do we have the love to keep her dream, to keep her dream alive? All right, everybody now. Oh, do we have love to keep her dream alive? To keep her dream alive, baby. Do we have love to keep her dream alive? Yeah. Oh, baby, do we have love? Do we have love? What to keep her dream, to keep her dream alive.
Thank you.
Thrilled that you've joined us for our In Harmony with Hope Awards. Shortly, you'll be meeting three amazing people, people who embody hope, and people who rose to the top of a long list of hopefuls. A quote on my office wall by Albert Einstein says, "If we knew what we were doing, it wouldn't be called research." Who knew Einstein was so funny? But it's also a really deep quote, because it challenges us to remember that when we think we already have the answers, we are going to tend to miss a new answer if it presents itself. Tonight, I invite you to let go of what you think you may know about assumptions about social change, embracing the fact there may be other possibilities. Einstein is famous for the equation E equals mc squared, showing how mass and energy are related. What if we could come up with a formula showing how transformation, hope, and empowerment are related? What would it mean if we discovered the formula, the answer to what generates good news? Let's see, the THE. Transformation equals hope times empowerment. Transformation makes real news happen. Hope and empowerment are crucial to positive transformation. Our theme tonight, this Thursday, September 26th, 2013, is good news, the kind of news that makes a real difference, the kind that generates headlines like, "Hope breaks out." Hope is contagious. Hope is also empowering. Our little equation defines the ripple effect of empowerment times hope that leads to transformation. Positive transformation, it's what we're all about at Elfenworks. Working in harmony, building hope, empowering others as change agents. And I have high hopes that it's working. High hopes when I see student filmmakers empowered to tell their stories and transforming their self-image as I'm a social justice filmmaker. Or when I have the winning social justice musicians, these wonderful musicians, some of whom join us in partnership, reaching new audiences with the empowering message, you matter, your ripple matters, go make a difference. So glad, David, that you're here tonight with us. I have high hopes as more people surf to our website for ideas and tips on how to make that ripple, or when more kids and parents and teachers are using our little breathing butterfly exercise to empower themselves to deal with the stresses in their lives. Or as I meet a new generation of leaders in India, as I did this summer, and teach them our 7-pillar methodology, empowering them to transform their domestic landscape. And teaching them also, I think, that the highest form of charity is the kind that empowers others to no longer need charity. I have high hopes when I see previous winners and partners returning to celebrate with us and build networks together. Paul Minorini of Boys Hope, Girls Hope is here tonight, as is Gary Oppenheimer, Ample Harvest. Thank you. And so is our friend, Professor David Grusky, who directs the Center on Poverty and Inequality. David's here. I also have high hopes, when I see our team really understanding the idea that it's transformed people who can transform the world. Jennifer is going back to Golden Gate University while still continuing to work very hard for us. And Kelly is going to St. Mary's College to work on her master's while still also continuing to work with us. And that's really something. That's really something. And speaking of our team, I just have to take this moment to thank all of them. They're the ones who really are working so hard to bring you this wonderful evening of hope. And so please thank my team with me, led by Marion Sprague. Marion, stand up. Come on, Marion. Yeah. I have the best team in the whole world. Einstein opened our eyes to new ways of thinking about our world and our reality. Tonight, we shine a light on 3 change agents who have the power to change our thinking about the world and what is possible. Tonight, we also shine a light on the hopeful and empowering idea that we are all transformative change agents. It is in our power to make a positive difference, because everything we do, everything we say, and everything we are will ripple out and end by transforming the world we live in. As you help me welcome our special MC tonight, TV news reporter and transformative newsmaker Wendy Takuda, I invite you to hold open the hope-filled question of what is possible. When Bruce Hornsby sang that song, "That's Just the Way It Is," he was making a point about shaking off resignation, that some things will never change. Don't you believe it? Because we can do better, and together we already are. And that's the way it is. Thursday, September 26th, 2013.
I love this news theme. Do you love those programs? It was terrific. Who hadn't seen that? I am very lucky because I do get to work on good news. I've retired from daily anchoring, but I work on a series of stories called Students Rising Above, when we focus on low-income kids who have overcome tremendous obstacles. They are all kids who live below the federal poverty line. Most of them do not have parents. Many have been homeless, many have been in foster care, in and out of foster care, or literally on their own. But all of them have decided they want to go to college. And we ask viewers to help them do that. One quick story, Kimberly Armstrong, one of our students, was 5 years old when she watched her stepfather shoot and kill her mother. She and her 2 little brothers were right there. They were placed in the custody of their grandmother, who was an alcoholic and would beat the children. Over time, because this went on for years, and by the way, people knew what was going on, but over time, Kimberly could see that the violence was accelerating and it was getting dangerous. And one night when it was particularly bad, she told her 2 little brothers to pack what they needed in their backpacks because they were going to leave that night. And after the grandmother passed out, Kimberly took those 2 little boys, crying, into the rain, caught a bus from Richmond, California, and went to their aunt's house. Kimberly was 13 years old when she made that decision and risked her own life. Now, about half of all foster kids don't finish high school. If they do get to college, 1% of them finish. They have a 1% chance of finishing. This May, Kimberly Armstrong graduated from USF Law School. Both of her brothers graduated from college, one from Manhattanville, the other from Ohio Wesleyan. Students Rising Above, meanwhile, has grown from a series of TV stories into a nonprofit because good people like you kept calling and wanting to do more. And this year, it will take 100 new students into its class. Kids like Kimberly have taught me about hope, that there is hope in Richmond and in East Oakland, that one person, even if they're 13 years old, can make a difference. I am honored to be able to be here to MC this evening to honor 3 remarkable people. Andrew Yang, Gary Slutkin, Dr. Slutkin, and Krista Gannon. All 3 work with young people in one way or another. They are all Ivy Leaguers, our best and brightest, 2 attorneys, a doctor. They had every opportunity to go the money route. Instead, they chose a different path. They chose to make a difference. They chose to make change. And they chose to grow hope. Our first recipient this evening from New York is the founder of Venture for America. Andrew Yang has been described as a remarkable leader with extraordinary ambitions to transform some of the poorest inner cities in America: Detroit, Providence, Rhode Island, Cincinnati, Baltimore. He graduated from Brown, got his law degree at Columbia, initially launched a career in New York City. Later, he left law, came to the Silicon Valley, founded a startup. For 10 years, he worked in the Silicon Valley on startups. Many, if not most, of our talented Ivy Leaguers choose, like Andrew, to take a path to success working in those big cities. And meanwhile, huge sections of our country are stagnating. They're going bankrupt. They're disintegrating. What would it take to get more bright young graduates, more of the best and brightest, to step off that predictable career path and instead go to Baltimore or Detroit and choose to work in areas that do not usually attract Ivy Leaguers. Well, Andrew Yang understands what it takes to make that happen. He uses his skills to make a difference. He understood that smart, energetic young people can help revitalize American cities and communities through entrepreneurship, and they can get hands-on business experience at the same time. And most important, he knew how to motivate other people. He founded Venture for America, VFA, and at its core, it is about creating jobs. They are aiming to generate 100,000 new jobs in the United States by 2025. Very, very competitive getting into this program. And the select few who do make it in to this fellowship program start by spending the summer at Brown University, taking MBA level classes. Then they go on to their chosen ventures and the challenges of the real world. One of the VFA fellows said, in a quote here, "VFA is for those who want to come in, work hard, and move fast." By bringing top talent to startups, Andrew Yang and Venture for America are creating a culture of entrepreneurship in our inner cities that leads to growth, economic growth, and it leads to jobs. They are transforming America. Now let's take a look now at the videotape that shows what they do.
Meet Bob. He's a talented, energetic young professional looking to make an impact. Bob's friends and peers are running to San Francisco, New York, and DC to become consultants, iBankers, and lawyers. But Bob wants to know about other options available to people as smart and motivated as himself. Meet Jane. Jane is the founder and CEO of a startup company in Detroit, Michigan. She wants to know how she can attract and retain top talent like Bob so her company can grow and thrive. Meet everyone in America. We're all wondering how we can promote job creation so more Americans can enjoy gainful employment, fulfillment, and prosperity. Meet Venture for America. We connect talented, highly motivated young people to startup companies in American cities that sorely need business development, like New Orleans, Cleveland, and Baltimore. Through VFA, young people like Bob gain tremendous entrepreneurial experience. Startup CEOs like Jane gain motivated employees thirsting to add value and promote growth. And our American cities gain a strong economic jolt as these companies expand and hire more people, pay taxes, and patronize other local businesses.
And these are very ambitious, lofty goals, so we decided to distill them into something a little bit more immediate, which is we are going to create 100,000 new US jobs by 2025. And for all of the discussion about job creation, we think this is actually pretty straightforward. You train them to become builders, job creators who will end up generating new opportunities. We have the talent, we have the resources, it's just being very, very poorly allocated right now.
When it came down to deciding what I wanted to do after college, I thought I was going to end up in New York doing banking like a lot of my peers, but I just didn't have the passion for it.
If you graduated from Harvard in 2011, there's about a 50% chance that you went to finance, law school, or management consulting. And if you included medicine, it was about a 2/3 chance that you headed to professional services. Now, these are obviously vital, crucial sectors of the economy, but we think that we may be at a point where we have a little bit too much of a good thing, and that there are diminishing returns from additional flows of talent to these areas. And we all know in this room that most of the economy occurs within that void, and certainly most of the growth opportunities and the companies that are going to end up being the companies of the future that create new jobs. If you're a brilliant young man who grows up in Florida and goes to Wharton, the odds of you going back to Florida and starting a business and creating opportunities, the odds are quite low. And the odds of you doing something in professional services are very high. So if you have this picture consistently for a couple of decades, you end up with an economy and a society that looks much like the one we all see before us today.
That image of a city awaiting inhabitants and innovation captured me.
We pair them with existing entrepreneurs and growth companies in cities that are somewhat downbeat economically. We select and train these college graduates, we match them with startups, and then they spend 2 years growing these companies. Now, throughout the 2 years, we actually also provide programming and support throughout, a sense of community and mentorship. At the end of the 2 years, we award $100,000 in seed investment to the top performing fellows so that they can eventually perhaps go on to start their own business. So this has the potential to give rise to a virtuous cycle, whereas these companies and fellows mature, they create new opportunities, hire more fellows, and this is how we think you rebuild an economy.
This is the true story
of 5 Venture for America fellows.
Bryant, Sean,
Melanie,
Ethan, and the other Sean.
Picked to live in a city
and work there for 2 years. Find out what happens
when people stop working for these guys
and start working for these guys.
How are we doing? We're killing it.
Thank you, Wendy. Thank you, Lauren, Ken, and Marion, and the Elfenworks Foundation. I've been in a great mood since I got here tonight, and I think it's because of Lauren. I think she's got sort of this good vibes force field that I've been subject to, and I think many of you might have been as well. So, I hadn't seen that video before, but it was like a wave of memories, actually. And some of those videos weren't made for public consumption. They were actually made by the fellows as part of competitions we had during training camps. I was like, oh, how did Elfenworks find those? I thought they were sequestered in some deep recess of the internet somewhere. So the narrator of that first video was a woman named Zoe Chavez, who I saw a few weeks ago. So she's in Providence working for a startup, and she told me about how she found Venture for America, which I think is very relevant to the work that Elfenworks does. Elfenworks is all about energy and optimism and transformational change. So Zoe was a very pro-social student at Brown, my alma mater. She's from an underprivileged background herself, and she started volunteering while she was there. So she volunteered in a community center helping indigent people in Providence, of which there's no shortage, unfortunately, since Providence, people don't think of it as beleaguered in the same way that they think of, Detroit or something like that. But Providence actually, I love Providence, but Providence has an unemployment rate of 10.3%, something along those lines, and the public finances of the state of Rhode Island are not great. So Zoe was volunteering at a community center, and she saw these problems, like there was a child who had pneumonia, but he had pneumonia because the family couldn't afford heat for the winter, and so it was February and March, and so he came down with pneumonia. Or there was another family where the child had asthma, but the reason for the asthma was that there was mold on the ceilings, and the landlord wasn't removing it. So what Zoe would do is Zoe would write the landlord a nasty letter saying, hey, you need to get rid of this mold, or connect the family with the child with pneumonia with like subsidized heating oil or some resource. But she started noticing that the big change happened when these families got jobs, because a lot of the times they were seeking jobs during this period. And then when they got jobs, all of a sudden things started to change and look up for that family. So Zoe then thought, wow, if I really want to make change in a place like Providence, I need to help people find jobs or create jobs. And so she determined to learn how that process takes place, applied to Venture for America, got in, and now she's working for a company called Splitwise in Providence. She was an early hire. She was, I believe, the 4th person there. And Splitwise is a little tech company that makes apps around fairness, which I think you guys might also enjoy. It's around how to split restaurant checks if you have multiple people and you order different things. Or split rent if you have a roommate, but one room is bigger than the other. So that company now is growing, and it's looking to hire its 5th and 6th person. And for every one person one of these tech companies hires, research shows that it helps support 5 jobs among people that don't have college degrees. So there's an ecological effect to the success of Splitwise and companies like that in Providence. So hearing Zoe's voice, I thought of all this, and I said, wow, Zoe would be proud to see that her training camp project just found an audience here in Silicon Valley. So Zoe's story to me is about what we hope to do with Venture for America, and I think what Elfenworks would like to see happen as well, which is we ask a little bit more of our strongest people. A lot of the country looks to you. How many of you guys are actually based here in Silicon Valley? I get the sense it's like most all of you. All right, so you guys should know, those of you who have your hands up, the rest of the country looks to you for leadership. They actually see you as more advanced in terms of the culture of innovation, the acceptance of failure, and this as the epicenter of progress in many ways. And so one thing I love about the Elfenworks Foundation's work is that it really calls out that for those of us who have the most access, the most resources, and are in these sorts of environments, that we always need to be mindful of the fact that there are people who are living in places that are not like this, or are not like, New York City, where I live now. And so what we're doing is we're asking more of our top people to be like Zoe and start building these new organizations that will help create opportunities, not just for themselves, but for those around them. And that's, I think, the ideal of the Elfenworks Foundation. It's about how we measure our value by the impact we have on others. And that's an ideal that I'm happy to say, I'm happy to report from the front lines, that our young people very much want to embody themselves. So thank you again for this award, to Lauren. The Elfenworks Foundation, that ideal is something that I'm going to strive to live up to over the course of building Venture for America, hopefully into the organization it has the potential to be. So thank you all very much.
Our next recipient comes from Chicago, the founder of an organization called Cure Violence, Dr. Gary Slutkin. Dr. Slutkin is confronting the problem of gun violence in America in a very new, very different way. He's an MD, but he is not dealing with gun violence in the trauma room of ER. He is dealing with it on the street as an epidemiologist. The organization Cure Violence has been steadily reducing gun violence throughout the country and around the world for 13 years now, and it does it in this unique way. Dr. Slutkin's program approaches violence like a disease. It analyzes it the way an epidemiologist would, and its goal is to treat it and to cure it. Dr. Slutkin spent his early career working to eradicate or to fight AIDS, cholera, and TB in Africa through the World Health Organization. And after 10 years of doing that, he decided to take a break and go back to his hometown of Chicago. But in Chicago, his altruism caught up with him again after seeing headline after headline of people being shot and killed. And he began to look at the maps of where the outbreak was happening, where the violence was happening, and he noticed that it looked remarkably similar to the maps that pinpointed the outbreak and the spread of infectious diseases. And he wondered, could you treat violence as an infectious disease and cure it using protocols that were developed to treat cholera? He put those theories to test in West Garfield in Chicago, the most violent neighborhood in the city. And the video will show you how his program operates there. But the cornerstone of it are teams of what he calls violence interrupters. Those violence interrupters are people who are coming out of jail, who come from the streets. They are people with street cred. They go out into the neighborhood. They find out who is most likely to shoot or to be shot, and then they step in. And there is a win-win here because those violence interrupters get a living wage, they get benefits, they are recognized as being on the side of good, and so the change redoubles there. They have some backup support with the outreach workers, and that first year, there was a measurable reduction in overall shootings. In some of the communities, retaliatory shootings stopped entirely. At the end of the video, you will see Eddie, who is one of the violence interrupters, holding up a self-portrait. Watch that portrait carefully. He is wearing a three-piece suit. and he is being watched over by a lion. It is about success and pride and how far he has come. Let's watch that video now.
Our work is designed to look at violence in terms of its contagious nature. That is to say, how one event leads to another and how people learn this from each other. I'm a physician trained in infectious diseases. The maps of violence in most U.S. cities looked like this. There was clustering. This reminded me of clustering that we'd seen also in infectious epidemics, for example, cholera. Well, what really predicts a case of violence? And it turns out that the greatest predictor of a case of violence is a preceding case of violence, which also sounds, it may be familiar to you. If there's a case of flu, someone gave someone a case of flu, or a cold, or the greatest risk factor of tuberculosis is having been exposed to tuberculosis. And so we see that violence is, in a way, behaving like a contagious process or disease. There's good news about this, though, because there's a way to reverse epidemics, and there's really only 3 things that are done to reverse epidemics, and the first of it is interrupting transmission. In order to interrupt transmission, you need to detect and find first cases.
I was a former gang leader. I came home almost 10 years ago, and I decided to be a part of the solution and not the problem.
I feel a deep-seated guilt for what I've done in my life. And I felt that I've taken so much, my community, I've taken someone's life.
The way the Ceasefire Chicago model works is by recruiting and training a new cadre of workers called violence interrupters.
They consider us to be credible messengers because we've been there, done that, and we try to pass that along to them.
We work directly with the community to change the norms, if norms are violent in this neighborhood. So we work at 3 levels: detecting and interrupting events, behavior change among the highest risk, and changing the norms for the long haul among the community as a whole. And then we would put all of this into place in one neighborhood in what was the worst police district in the United States at the time. So violence interrupters hired from the same group, credibility, trust, access, just like the health workers in Somalia, but designed for a different category, and trained in persuasion, cooling people down, buying time, reframing. Now, our first experiment of this resulted in a 67% drop in shootings and killings in the West Garfield neighborhood of Chicago. There have been independent evaluations supported by the Justice Department and by the CDC and performed by Johns Hopkins that have shown 30 to 50 and 40 to 70% reductions in shootings and killings using this new method.
We mediated the conflict, and we got both sides to stand down. We got them to agree, you stay on your side of the street, we stay on our side of the street, and that's about where it is right now. No one's been shot since then.
If you can change the way you think about violence, then you can change the next person and the next person, and next thing you know, when a person pulls a gun out, you're gonna have like thousands of people up in his face saying, look, what are you doing? We don't even pull out guns anymore. That's a thing of the past.
What I did was as a result of having a friend shot, was as a result of not being able to process this anger. And it was also as a result of what I thought was normal behavior. And with Ceasefire, I'm giving that opportunity to actually make a difference.
Remarkable, really.
Thanks very much. Thanks very much, Wendy. Thank you, Lauren and Miriam and Ken. This is my timer. And how's everybody tonight? Yeah. I'm having a great day. I was at Ocean Beach this morning. and it was really sunny and beautiful, and I got to feel the ocean. I used to live right across the street of Ocean Beach. I spent a lot of time here in San Francisco, 10 years. I did my training at UCSF in San Francisco General and ran the TB program for San Francisco when it had the largest epidemic in the country at the time. And for a reason that still escaped me, I left. And I moved to Mogadishu. And yeah, wouldn't you? And the chief of infectious diseases said to me, that was my training, he says, "Gary, this is the biggest mistake you'll ever make in your life." And I haven't made one to live up to that one yet. But so it's accurate. I went over for a year, I stayed 10 years, and I learned a lot. I learned in Somalia and with cholera and with TB how to prevent the spread of things that spread, how to interrupt it. And I picked up on also the ideas about using paraprofessional workers, which is a kind of demonstrated technology. People like Carl and Eddie. We had health workers in Somalia that helped reduce mortality in these refugee situations. And then I got picked up by World Health and got assigned to the AIDS epidemic and worked with the 13 countries in the middle of Africa. And that's really where I learned about behavior and behavior change. And I worked on the Uganda program. And after being away for 10 years, I wanted to come home. I really wanted to come home. I didn't know what I would work on. I didn't really think America had any problems. I had a view of America. I mean, I would visit people. Most of them had water that came right into their house. And how many of you have this? And so maybe more than one room. But people started to tell me about kids shooting each other. I said, "What are you guys doing about it?" And they were telling me about all this punishment. I knew that this had been disproven as being of value in doing a behavior change. And then they told me about all these other things that I didn't really thought had a chance. And so we spent 5 years just trying to design a strategy. And yeah, as Wendy said, and as it showed, I was starting to get influenced by these curves and maps and so on. This is looking familiar, but I really wasn't completely settled on that this was an infectious disease. But we developed a method, we put it into place, we got a very strong result. People said, "Oh yeah, do it again." And we did it 4 more times. We've replicated this 20 times. There have been independent evaluations. And this is working in 15 cities now in the US, and we're working in Honduras and Colombia and Trinidad and South Africa. We did some work on the election in Kenya. We adapted the method for that. And we've been working in Basra, Iraq for 6 years. I just have staff just returning from the Syria-Turkey border, basically using this method to begin to train people to think about this problem differently. And we're getting between 50 and 70, even up to 80% drops in shootings in some of these places, including Puerto Rico and in South Africa. So, yeah, so there's a method that works, but even more interesting to me, because I'm kind of a scientist in a way, is that I've been writing this book, and I got stuck on the idea of, what's really going on in the mind here. And I really had to buy 50 or 70 books and talk to a whole bunch of people. And it turns out that the contagion is real. It really is a contagious process. There's things in your brain that you unconsciously copy what other people do. And you follow what other people do, and there's dopamine systems for this. And then people get hyperreactive from having been traumatized. And it really does fit the characteristic definition of contagious in that it's transmissible. Not everybody gets it. Not everybody gets TB. Not everyone in this room would get a cold if someone were coughing. But it is contagious, and it is a disease. Centers for Disease Control has a violence prevention unit. So we're getting results. The theory has been demonstrated effective. The practice works. So I'm hoping that this provides some hope. And I thank you all for for being here, and I thank Elfenworks, and again, to all of you for supporting our organization, and it makes me and our staff, gives us more strength. And I'll be providing to everybody there, our team, which is also one of the best teams in the world, to your thanks, and thank you from them.
And our next recipient is in her hometown. That's good, right? Local girl, founder of Fresh Lifelines for Youth. Her name is Krista Gannon. She was a law student at Stanford on her way to becoming a trial lawyer, and then she volunteered at a maximum security juvenile facility, and something changed. The kids, locked up, troubled, would talk to her, and they would repeat the same story, that their lives would have been different if they had only had some support. So in 1996, when she was still in law school, she created a program that matched fellow law students with kids in juvie in Santa Clara County, in juvenile hall, and she asked the kids to help her design a program that would have helped them keep away from a life of crime. And their recommendations form the core of the program, Fresh Lifelines for Youth, or FLY, as they call it. One, to provide training and information that will help kids in trouble learn about the law and learn how to follow the law. Two, to be paired with a role model. And three, to allow troubled kids the chance to be of service to the community. And it's working. It's working well. FLY now works with almost 1,000 kids who are on probation or are high risk in high school, and it works with 1,000 at-risk kids in middle school in Santa Clara and in San Mateo counties. The 12-week law program course is a crime prevention program for kids who are on probation or attending an alternative school or behind bars. A group of 20 trained volunteers use FLY's curriculum to teach them in those two counties that we mentioned. And they're given the tools to help them with anger management, empathy, problem solving, and resisting negative peer pressure. For the kids who want more or need more after they finish that program, FLY offers two things. One, every year about 70 teenagers get to take part in a 2-year leadership program. And secondly, another 100 who are struggling with substance abuse can take part in a 2-year mentor program. Both those programs match a volunteer with a teenager, and they have monthly retreats and a wilderness retreat, a 3-day wilderness retreat. And here's why taxpayers should be interested in this. A year in the leadership program costs $13,000. 75% of the kids who complete it do not commit a new crime during the program year. Now compare that to a year in juvenile hall. That costs taxpayers $190,000. And the studies show that 3/4 of those kids will end up back incarcerated. Here's a video on how to fly.
My name is Erica. I'm 22 years old. My mother passed away when I was about 11 years old. I was passed from my sister to my brother to my father, so it's a very hard time. For about maybe 6 years, I think I was not myself. I don't know who I was. I started making bad friends who were like me, lost. That's what started a lot of my bad habits. I had to learn the hard way. The first time I was in juvenile hall, I was 14.
When she came to fly, she had the tattoo across her chest, agony and ecstasy. She was so hard and her demeanor was so angry. She didn't know what it felt like to be physically safe in the presence of another human being. Our young people are not seen as beautiful, capable, amazing human beings. Often they're coming from situations where they're not wanted, where mom and dad were in and out of jail, grandma was in and out of jail, uncle was fighting in the streets, and they're at a place where they think that they'll be dead or in prison by the time they're 18 or 21. I think what we all have in common at Fly is a deep love for our kids who are in trouble. I believe that with our work, they have the opportunity and they can capture their human potential and do something amazing with it. So does every single one of my staff members. They believe in these kids.
There's not a lot of programs that have the staff or the volunteers that have either the street sense or the technical training that allow them to kind of create that rapport with young people so that young people are comfortable enough to call.
These are just kids. These are kids that need to be loved, nurtured, educated, hugged, like all the other kids on the planet.
I miss you too. First time I met Susie, she made me comfortable being myself. If I need advice, anything, I mean, she's the only one I can think of calling, Without her, I mean, I wouldn't have my eyes so open. And, I wouldn't believe in so many things if it wasn't for her. If I were to think that I have a mom in my life, I would feel like she is.
High five, baby. High five. My name's Nico Sanders. I'm here today to just tell you guys a little bit about my life, how I made a couple mistakes in my life that led me to eventually being arrested and being put in juvenile hall. How many of you guys like to go to the movies? Okay. How many of you guys like to hang out with your friends whenever you want to? How many of you guys like to eat and go to the bathroom whenever you want to? Once you go to juvenile hall, you have to ask permission to go to the restroom. You have to be told when you can eat. You have to be told when you can shower. You have a cell and a bed. So I'm here to just let you guys know that there are rules in life, and with following these rules, there's privileges, and your privilege is your freedom.
It's an artificial environment. It works well. They tend to do well when they're in that controlled, structured environment. Have we done anything at all to help improve his home life? Probably not. And so when you return that young person back to their home, they're going to go right back to what they know. We threw every possible resource at them. You just didn't see the buy-in. For an outside agency to be able to do it in 6 or 7 months says they're working magic, and magic is good.
I'm fighting for these kids because they're amazing. They're strong. They're resilient. They have a spark of goodness that the rest of the world needs to see.
I am so lucky to be here tonight and to have a chance to do this work. I want to thank you for this incredible honor to be with such inspirational company with Gary and Andrew and past nominees. Lauren, your team is amazing. Wells Fargo for the support. I want to do a special thank you to my family who is here, my husband, my father-in-law, my 10-year-old daughter, Haley. Thanks for sharing your mom. I really appreciate it. And most importantly, I want to humbly receive this award as a representative of the Fly family. You are agents of hope. My staff, volunteers, board members, donors are here. You inspire me. I believe that all our children have potential, have a spark of goodness. I believe that all our children deserve a chance to become more than their past mistakes. And I believe that all of us at times need someone to believe in us, to see something in us that maybe we've never quite even seen ourselves. I believe that hope is contagious. Take a moment. Think about a time somebody believed in you. How did it feel? What did it help you do? Fly exists because a group of young men believed in me. I was a law student searching for what I was supposed to do with my life, and the search was not going well. And I spent my Fridays volunteering in juvenile hall, where I met these young men who were serving some 5 years, 10 years, some even life in prison for the choices that they had made. And I went into this work thinking, these are hardened criminals. There's probably nothing that can really be done, so I'll just teach them about what's going to happen when they go to court. And then I discovered they were kids. Kids who had grown up without role models, kids who had grown up without having that chance to see a different way of solving problems without violence, without drugs, without crime. Kids who didn't want other people to follow in their footsteps. And so they said to me that I could make a difference. And they were insistent, they were adamant. They were, Krista, go out there. Go teach these kids about this legal stuff. Give them people to care about them and give them a chance to do something good so people don't just see us as juvenile delinquents. And my tall body is stuck in this little tiny plastic chair. And I'm listening to them and I'm thinking to myself, oh, these boys are really crazy. And so I said to them, really? Come on, who are you kidding? I'm just a nice white girl from the suburbs. What can somebody like me do to make a difference? And am I even the right person to help? Yes, you are. We don't care what package you come in. What we care about is that you listen and that you care. They believed. They had hope, and their hope was contagious. And so I went and did something that a lot of people thought was crazy, and their ideas are what started Fly. If I had to distill down Fly's work into one word, what do? To me, that word has always been hope. Now, I know that at Fly, it's about transformation, it's about change. And we ask a lot of our young people, we ask them to change their behaviors, their attitudes, their belief that all they're going to be is criminals. And that's hard work. How many of us have ever tried to change a behavior? Can you think of a time you tried to change? Wasn't easy, right? Californians, just think about the hands-free law for a second. Was not an easy process, right? And research shows that the number one reason that we don't change or that we fail at it is because we don't believe we can. We have to have hope, and hope is contagious. At Fly, we're inspired by it every day, and there's so many stories. There's stories like Maria, who when she came to us at 16 was addicted to crystal meth, was very entrenched in gangs, and I remember how she would describe it would go something like this. Well, so then the judge told me I had to go to Fly. Whatever, okay, fine, I'll go to Fly. Then this mentor, this woman, she would just call me. She would constantly call me. She'd come to my house, she'd come to my neighborhood, she'd drive around looking for me, she'd come to my court dates, she wouldn't quit, and I thought the girl was crazy. And then I thought to myself, why does she even care? It's not going to help. I'm just going to end up in juvenile hall. And she wouldn't quit. And she believed so much that I started believing too. Fast forward to today, this young woman, like many who have gone through our programs, is happy, sober, successful, working, a mom, a wife, a person who is inspiring other people every day with the choices that she is making. Hope made that possible. Hope is contagious. So tonight, my invitation to you as you leave this amazing gathering is to be on the lookout for someone who would benefit from your hope. Who can you believe in? Tell them. Show them. Let your hope be contagious. And tonight, I so deeply thank those young men who believed in me, who had hope in me when I couldn't see it in myself. And I thank all of you for being here tonight, for renewing in me that there are people out there who will join us in this work, who will help support our young people who so deserve that chance to become more than their past mistakes. Thank you.
I want to thank all of you, Lauren and I, and the Elfenworks Foundation. One more time for the Balin brothers. Brad, David, Wendy, thank you so very much for being here with us. And I know we've talked about this a lot, and we always talk about how great, you know, our staff is and whatnot. So Lauren and I would like to take this evening where, you know, this place doesn't get set up like this, and all the invitations doesn't go out, and everything doesn't work without John and Mike back there, and the great invitations and stuff. Jan, Cherry, obviously, you know, every day, you know, for all of you who, you know, get your checks and everything gets worked out. That's all of those guys. And then I know that on behalf of the Elfenworks Foundation, we want to thank Wendy for being here with us tonight. Josh, your music, obviously everybody enjoys the music, thank you. And lastly, I know that all of you guys, especially the recipients, we want to thank Marion. She works tirelessly to make this happen every year. So thank you, Marion. And lastly, we want to thank the 3 new members of the Elfenworks family. Thank you for being here with us today. That was really awesome. So we'd love to have you guys join us in the library. We have tea and some desserts. Thank you so very much for being here with us tonight.